All right, what up, Diego? This is your assessment here. We're just pretty much going to go through every video that I recorded and tell you all the deficiencies that we're going to tackle so that way we're moving our best and performing our best and we don't run the risk of injury and have the best performance for longevity, okay? So this is your gait walk. So pretty much seeing how you're walking. If I see anything that's off. One thing that I do see is that right shoulder's a little bit elevated for sure. And your right foot's a little bit more, right ankle, it's a little bit more externally rotated, meaning that when you step, it's pointing out. You see that little twist that you do? Versus your left one's a little bit more straight. Still pivots a little bit, but as you can tell, that right leg is just pushing out. So that's telling me that right hip is definitely a little tighter than the left side. And then this step right here too, when you pay attention to your feet, it's pointing out versus the left one's pointing a little bit more straight. So that's something we gotta open up. Gotta open up that right hip so that way we're gonna be able to be well balanced and performing our best throughout each phase and program that we do. All right, brother. So this is walking lunges. One thing that I notice is you're definitely more stable on the right. So stable through that right hip, but when you are trying to stabilize through that back leg, you almost bring that leg out to stabilize, and that hip is dropping right here on the left side. Okay, when you're here, definitely a lot more straighter, right, more stable. We know that you're right dominant and stronger there, but you see how that pivot right there lean to the left, and this knee's caving out. In. That's giving me intentions that definitely got to work that stability on that left side. So build that strength and open up that right. A lot more stable there. Left hip moves a little bit. So we got to understand how to pretty much keep that hips and pelvics aligned when we step. So when you land with your left, like that, straighter for sure. It is dipping though a little bit on the left. When you come over to the right, this knee's caving in a lot more. Foot's a little bit more externally rotated. And as you can tell, that left hip is giving out on the left side. Okay. So stuff that we need to tackle on the program. So this is a toe touch squat, seeing how your spine flexion extension, how you're squatting. Okay, look at your pelvis aligned. Biggest cues here. Like I said, we're holding a lot of tension. We're definitely elevating the hip pelvis up this way. That hip is tight. Since that hip is tight, it's forcing this foot to be a little bit more externally out. Okay. Not bad on the hip. You see how pay attention to this knee, how it caves in, right? Externally rotated. It's just compensation. And you're definitely leaning more on the left because this one's a little bit more elevated, okay? Now go over to the side view here. Flexion could be a little better. We should be able to round that back a little bit better. Squat, good range of motion in the squat. And an extension of the spine, not bad, pretty good extension of the spine there. Awesome. Just things that we're gonna tackle in the program. Okay, this is lateral bend here. Pretty good both ways. A little bit more restricted when you lean over to the left, just because this side is definitely pulling you in. But not bad. Definitely could be able to improve a little bit more range of motion both ways. And we will as we progress through the programs. Okay, here's a lateral lunge. One thing I noticed, you do have a good hinge, but you see, continuing to talk about that right hip, how it gets tight. Not able to lengthen it completely when you go to the side. Okay, when you go over to the right side, little better, it's a lot straighter, but look how your knees externally pointing out. Just because, right, the compensation due to the fact that hip is tight. Okay, now we see it from the side view. When you come over to the left, good hinge. We should be able to, create more range of motion, which we will through the program. But when you go over to the right side, look how much more you're already pointing out towards the camera when this foot should be a little bit more straight, right? And then as you can tell, the range of motion on the hinge this way is not as much as when you go a little lower on here, right? So that tells me you're very quad dominant on that right hip, really, really tight in tension. We need to get those glutes and those hamstrings to wake up a little bit more. All right, this is for elbow flexion and extension. Not bad. I just don't think you're going all the way out on the elbow extension, so I'm not too worried in that sense. But if we look at external and internal, here already it tells me how much more you're flaring out that rib cage and chest in order for you to be able to bring your arms back and you arching your lower back. So that's stuff that we're gonna tackle in the program. But you see how you're already like trying to get yourself comfortable to open it up. That's stuff that we're gonna need to take care of. But when you bring it back, you see you bring it back and then lower your shoulders and pay attention to your rib cage. Okay, flares out. Boom, very subtle, but you should be able to rotate those shoulders back and definitely have a little bit of restriction, which should be is the reason that's causing that shoulder pain that we're gonna fix. All right, man. Here we're gonna look at T-spine rotation. Is how much you could turn your spine without compensating through the hips. So not bad. It's pretty good going both ways. Do lack a little bit, but you see how you kind of rotate the hip here. Pay attention. In order for you to rotate the spine going that way, this is just pulling you back when you're trying to go away from your right hip. That we know we're dealing restriction. Now pay attention to how straight this knee is compared to your right side. See how much more, and you're about to pick it up and move it even further out, right? So look at how straight this one is. And then you naturally are going to bring that foot out just because that's how you feel comfortable in order for you to be in that position because of that right hip. Okay, you rotate a little bit to the left. Not bad. Definitely could improve, but you're not moving your hip as much as you are. A little bit more than I would like, but right side it's a little bit more obvious. But like I said, a lot of the issues is coming from that right hip. All right, this is ankle mobility. It looks good, especially on the left side. Good ankle range of motion there. But one thing that I notice is, once again, that right hip is just tight and a little bit of compensation that you're dealing with. You're almost bringing your knee towards your midline, towards the corner over here. It's very subtle, but if you pay attention to the hip, rotate a little bit in. It's not anything concerning, but stuff that is just telling me that that right side is definitely a little bit more stickier than the left. So excited, brother. Let's work.